Morning shower, top of 19. Friday, partly cloudy and 21. Partly cloudy Saturday, 24. Sunny, 27. Then staying fine for Monday and Tuesday next week with temps in the high 20s. More news as it happens on FiveAA.
Peter Godfrey, talking Adelaide on 1395 FiveAA.
7 minutes past 5. We've had a bit of a chilly night tonight. As I said before, I had the heater on in the car on the way in and mentions people putting their electric blankets on. Very cold. 13 degrees we got at the moment. Let's head across the ditch to New Zealand. Take a look at what's happening there. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz's. How are you, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter.
How's
it's cool over there, is it?
Yes, yeah, feels like yesterday or late yesterday and last night, windy as well, making it even feel cooler. So
from the south, is it?
Yeah, yes, southwesterlies we've had, so yeah, a bit cool. So it feels like the seasons are changing.
It certainly is over here too, Peter. It's kind of probably around about 13, 14 degrees overnight, and you get that feel, like that Easter feel. And approaching Anzac Day, it's just a definite change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think our friends in the Northern Hemisphere, what I'm hearing from up there is that they're detecting spring there, buds, and the spring buds on the trees. So, yeah, definitely there's been a shift.
There's the change coming. Now we're talking this issue. There's been a big issue over your side of the ditch with regard to your spy agency, the GCSB, and your Prime Minister attacking the messenger rather than dealing with what's in the best interest of New Zealand. Tell us more.
Yes, that's very much true, Peter. What's happened here is these Snowden revelations have been coming out about once a week. There is a new angle to that, and the latest have been that the New Zealand government, via its GCSB Signals Surveillance Agency, so it spies basically on the communications of countries and people, etc., it targeted the opponents of our Trade Minister, Tim Grosser, when he was campaigning for the World Trade Organization leadership. So this is starting to get into serious ground here, So he's in this campaign, and our spy agencies are trawling through the emails of his opponents, obviously without them knowing. And what came through to this week from the New Zealand Herald was a document that was a GCSB and NSA document that showed all of the search criteria that would be used by X-Keyscore, that platform that surveillance operatives are able to use to trawl communications, internet, etc., and target various individuals. And what they did is that they put in key search terms that anything that in the emails of the opponents of Tim Grosser, if the word Grosser with various spellings came up, and a number of other words as well, WTO, all of that type of thing, then they would get a hit and signals would come back, and our spies would basically be alerted to the communications of those people. And so that in itself is obviously huge news. Now, that news broke at the time when New Zealand, our Prime Minister, and Tim Grosser, the Trade Minister, were in South Korea signing a free trade agreement with South Korea. And now this free trade agreement has been over a decade in the making. And so it was quite a breakthrough for the government on this. And from their point of view, they felt it was going to be a huge, big news, good news kind of opportunity for it to demonstrate what it's been doing. So this news broke, and the Prime Minister's reaction to it wasn't one where you would expect the Prime Minister to say, look, I'm going to look into these allegations, going to actually get down to the nitty-gritty. If it has found that the GCSB has been spying on all of our Pacific Island friends and neighbours, if it has been spying, as has been alluded to by the official documentation, on the trading partners of New Zealand, and now with those who campaigned against our Trade Minister when he was going for the WTO, then I will tell them and instruct them to cease. Now, one would expect that in New Zealand's national interest, that's what a leader would do.
Yeah.
There is no element that we can see in this, particularly in the last two categories, that would cover security intelligence from a security point of view, a defence point of view. It seems like we're really, as a nation, are wading into spying on our friends on the basis of trade opportunities now. Now, the Prime Minister didn't do that. He attacked the messengers. And first, he basically said here that there was a conspiracy that the investigative journalist Nicky Hager and others organised it to coincide with the signing of the free trade agreement with New Zealand and South Korea. When questioned on his conspiracy theory, the Prime Minister said, and I quote here, "Of course they were. It's all part of a particular agenda by Nicky Hager and some others." Now, that caused the New Zealand Herald to actually come out and say, and write a report and say, actually, Nicky Hager, the investigative journalist, he was arguing against publishing at this time. He was saying defer it until the government isn't signing such a big event so that this type of controversy isn't used by the Prime Minister to dampen down the impact of what we're reporting here. So the New Zealand Herald, which can hardly be accused of being a part of a left-wing agenda, it is just not its patch. It just went back into the Prime Minister, and once again, Peter, it erodes the credibility stakes of our leader here, particularly in this area that is under his governance in the spy agency sector, Peter.
It's amazing stuff. Now, one thing that sort of interests me with all of this is because we've got some legislation going through our federal parliament at the moment on data retention, which would require various telcos to be storing metadata for 2 years or something like that. Now, is it? Do you have similar laws there in New Zealand? And is that how your spy agencies are getting hold of these emails or enabling that to happen? Is it
two parts to that question? The storage is largely, as we understand it, being stored in the United States.
Okay.
So everything that New Zealand is collecting, and remember, this is on a massive scale, much more than metadata. This is in the Pacific Islands case here. We are trawling all communications, both civil communications, meaning the public, and officials and government communications and military communications. Now, that is absolute. Everything from a cell phone call to a text, online communications via Skype, person's internet use, all of that has been collected in total and then sent in its raw form over to the United States. Now, there are huge infrastructure developments in the United States where they're storing, particularly in Utah, the state of Utah. There's a big silo of storage that is underway there. It's difficult. No one really knows how long the United States can hold that amount of data. It's understood that it's not too long, that during that period there is there's a lot of analysis and getting rid of the wheat, sorting the wheat from the chaff and keeping the wheat. Now, metadata, that's another thing. That is something that it sounds like the spy agencies like to hold on for good. And it makes sense that you guys are attempting to make sure that in the very least you can hold the metadata for 2 years. What that basically does is it gives the ability, the agencies the ability to check back 2 years and see, okay, who's Peter been talking to? This person here, Peter's become radicalised. Is this network of people he's communicating with, are they of the same ilk? And it gives a pattern. Now, the United States, they talk about 2 or 3 hops, meaning that they just don't collect and surveil the communications of Peter Godfrey on this. They will look at the communications of the people he is talking to and the people that they are in talking to, so they get really good glacial kind of patterns, or spatial patterns, I should say, on the communication networks that you're kind of involved with. Now, you can see from a security point of view how important that is. Particularly when there's threats that are coming into countries like we have seen at different times and what we're told is in evidence. So with New Zealand and what it's been found to be doing, if it was purely and simply in that area, there'd be a lot of Kiwis who think, okay, well, that makes sense. But this, what we're talking about here, is New Zealand seems to be doing this for trade benefit and trade opportunity. Okay. Quite a different kettle.
And on a far bigger scale.
Yeah, on a bigger scale. Yeah. Now, why is New Zealand doing that? Security analysts and people like Dr. Paul Buchanan, who's former security intelligence areas himself that he worked in the United States, he lives in New Zealand. Now, his view is that New Zealand has so little oversight, Peter, on its intelligence agencies, that it's seen amongst the Five Eyes members, and that's Australia, the United States, Canada, Britain and New Zealand, that New Zealand is the one that can actually trawl without any consequence. If, for example, we know that Australia is doing it to a degree up in the Southeast Asia area relating to security in intelligence areas, and Indonesia comes on to the patch of Australia. But New Zealand's scope is quite different, and also the targeting, the elements of the surveillance, targeting, for example, the officials around the ASEAN nations, that's the trading bloc in Asia, to see what they're talking about and chatting about. That's something quite different.
Yeah, indeed. And you've expanded on that at length on your website, EveningReport.nz, in an editorial you've written there too. So,
yes.
Interesting stuff. So we'll just have a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about cricket, I think. It must be pretty exciting over there at the moment.
I think you've got a big game coming up tonight.
We have, yes,
today.
yes, indeed. Be right back with you. Selwyn Manning's with us, editor of EveningReport.nz, New Zealand's independent interactive debate.
5AA Breakfast.
Patrick Dangerfield, welcome back, mate.
Morning, Pembo.
We are not going to use this spot to hassle you every week about your future.
No, but I understand people want to know, but I don't have a clear answer at the moment. I feel really uncomfortable talking about in a public forum, and it's not something that the AFC discusses. We don't discuss ongoing contract talks.
David Penberthy, Mark Aston and Jane Riley for breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6 on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
If you're male, over 35 and having flow problems, try Caruso's Prostate Ease Max, an Australian clinical trial on men with medically diagnosed benign prostatic hypertrophy or enlarged prostate found Caruso's Prostate Ease Max decreased day and night frequency in the majority of participants. Caruso's Prostate Ease Max 30s, only $26.99 from Chemist Warehouse. Always read the label, use only as directed. If symptoms persist, see your healthcare professional. Chemist Warehouse, you'll find them all over South Australia.
The humble reverse cycle air conditioner can set your power meter spinning out of control. Mine did. Thanks to EnviroTemp, it doesn't anymore. A single installation of EnviroTemp improves the energy efficiency of your reverse cycle system by 2 to 8 degrees. From $349 on a split system, from $549 on a ducted. Book now and receive a free service worth up to $150. EnviroTemp is available direct from Mannix Air Conditioning. 1300 62 6649. Save even more. Book online, mannix.com.au.
My husband is a god. He spoke with MJ Security, and I got my security door. But it's more than a door. It's a fortress made from InvisiGuard marine-grade stainless steel, which keeps us safe and the outside out.
Give your home super safety. Call MJ Security Doors. As Adelaide's leading InvisiGuard dealer, MJ Security Doors will custom build your doors, screens, timber doors or roller shutters for Adelaide's best price guaranteed. Visit mjsecurity.com.au.
Talk about the sandwich generation. Just as our kids are getting old enough to look after themselves, our parents are starting to find things a bit too hard to deal with on their own. If you're starting to plan ahead and make informed choices with your parents, Resthaven is there to help. Resthaven has been supporting older South Australians since 1935, providing a range of services from a little help at home to high-level care. For details, visit resthaven.asn.au.
1395, Adelaide's 5AA. This is Peter Godfrey.
And Selwyn Manning is with us, editor of EveningReport.nz, looking at things taking place across the ditch. Now, Selwyn, the cricket, the World Cup, down to the pointy end of it. You guys are already there in the final on Sunday. Hopefully we'll be there with you, depending on how today turns out. But your semi-final match, South Africa, nail-biter.
Absolutely. You know, pinching cliches, aren't we? You know, it's a nail-biter thing. But that's exactly what it was like, Peter. I mean, honestly, it was really good in a sense, too. Sky TV put it on their free-to-view channel Prime over here in New Zealand, so all Kiwis could watch it. And I thought that was great because much of this has been locked away on the pay channels only. And a lot of New Zealanders clearly miss out of it and listening on radio, etc., etc. So that was a really good move. So many people got to see the subtleties and the camaraderie amongst not just your own team members, where the batters, you know, the Kiwi batters in between innings and that go over and kind of touch gloves and things like that without getting touchy-feely about it. It was really good. You know, you could see a team environment there. But when there was tension, even a high tension going, different events would happen. And you'd see the South Africans really enjoying seeing their, an athletic feat by the Kiwis on a thing, and likewise going back the other way, it was actually a really good example of good sportsmanship, but absolutely intense competitiveness as well. So for that, it's been applauded as a game. But Peter, it came down to the two last balls of the last over, and what New Zealand needed to do on that second to last ball, they needed to get a boundary, meaning a 4 at least. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got the numbers in those last two balls to have won or come even. So anyway, so it was so tense because South Africa had its best bowler, as you would in that last over. And New Zealand, at one end, had Daniel Vettori, fantastic spin bowler, in his mid to late 30s now, but has really anchored this team down. He's not too flash with the bat, but when he's okay, he's okay. So he's a bit variable. He's not a 6 hitter. And he managed, just prior to that, to get a 4 that kept us in there. Then we were able to get on strike with our better batter out there, who's a guy called Grant Elliott. Now, he's reasonably new to the team. And ironically, he's a South African.
Yes.
Strong. Yeah, great, isn't it? It'd be like Shane Warne playing for New Zealand against you guys in the past, something like that. This guy's good, strong South African accent. And he's out there, and he was really, he had his eye in. As they say in cricket, he was in the zone. Anyway, this second to last ball comes down, and he whacks it for 6. Right through into the stands, and the place just went off. And the South Africans, man, they just collapsed. They were, it's been so many times they've come close to getting into a final of a World Cup cricket tournament, and for whatever reason, they've missed out. I mentioned Shane Warne just before. He was commentating here on this particular game, and he pointed out that the South Africans weren't chokers. They were just very unlucky in the way things went, like rain at one time in the semis, or et cetera, that blocked them from coming out. But that game was just a fantastic one, Peter. How it indicates how New Zealand's going to compete against you guys or India at the MCG on the weekend is another story. People are looking across from here. They're looking across the ditch. The Australian team is very much even though it was a close game between Australia and New Zealand earlier on. New Zealand is under no illusions that the Australian team is, a world-class, if not the world-class team in the tournament. So, there's a lot of fear around that in a sense. The TAB here, the bettors, the bookies and that, they're still, even though Australia has yet to play a semi-final, it is still the favourite to win the actual cup.
Oh, is that right?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So that gives you an indication there. They're not writing the Kiwi team off. The Kiwi team can obviously play cricket, can obviously win in a tournament, which is not easy, is it? But so all eyes on that. And likewise, the Kiwi team itself has been putting out into the media, via its channels, saying, irrespective of who wins the semi-finals today between India and Australia, there's going to be 80,000 people at the MCG chanting for either Australia or they're going to be chanting for India. And so they know it's going to be a cauldron of atmosphere, and the Kiwis have not yet been tested in this tournament in that type of environment.
Yeah. So. Be interesting. Well, we've said all along, Australia and New Zealand in the final. We're close. We'll have to see what happens today, of course, the SCG.
That'll be a good one. You've got to say, in this game that just played, in New Zealand. When was that? Tuesday. There's a huge Indian contingent in the crowd cheering like mad for New Zealand.
Yeah. I think that's been
a lot of Kiwis here were thinking, oh, that's great. Obviously the Indians are having a good time here and enjoying their new country, but then others are saying, actually, I think they'd prefer their country's team to play New Zealand in the final rather than South Africa for whatever reason. So there's a lot of debate around all sorts of avenues, but a fantastic tournament. It's really too, Peter. It's rugby over in New Zealand has been encroaching into the summer season for many years, and so it's just rugby with all the various expressions of its game. With it's good to see cricket on the radar here in New Zealand, so that you've got a summer game that is actually giving some sort of oscillation between the primary sports. So that's another thing. And there are kids out there, you see them in the parks with their cricket bats having a whack.
Well, that's,
and that's great.
That's got to be a great benefit, isn't it, to inspire kids to go out and, do something like that. Well, as we've said along, may the best team win today, hopefully Australia.
That's your tagline, Peter. I like that. You always say that. That's a great line.
Today, let's hope the Aussies win and we can meet you guys on Sunday at the MCG. It'd be good.
Yeah, we'll have a chat next week about how it's all going, but that sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed it does. Yeah. Good on you, Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this morning. Have a great week. Of course, we can catch you again tomorrow morning after 6:30 on Brekkie with Mark, David and Jane.
Okay, Peter.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Selwyn Madding, editor of EveningReport.nz.
The Women's and Children's Hospital has been contributing to the health and vitality of our mums and kids for generations. And since 1989, we have raised over $30 million to support the hospital. Today, we are Team Kids, and this Easter Monday, join us on Channel 9 from 10:30am for the inaugural Team Kids Beyond Bank Easter Appeal, the first televised telethon on 9 for 32 years. It's your chance to give the kids something for Easter, to donate to the hospital to help buy equipment, fund research and provide better facilities for the kids and their mums. Find out more at teamkidseasterappeal.org.au.
Cheapest Chips. You'll find everything you need for Easter at Cheapest Chips. Eggs, baskets and all sorts of items for your Easter party. It's all in their new Easter